Now to a Target 8 investigation and a troubling case that still sends ripples through a lakeshore tourist town.
A decorated police officer using his badge for sexual favors. As Thomas Carey prepares for sentencing next week, Target 8 has uncovered some new details, raising new concerns.
And for the first time, a victim is telling her story to 24-Hour News 8, going public with it. Here's Target 8 investigator Ken Kolker.
Blame myself. I mean, I could have said no, but what do you say? Say he's a cop.
She was the first victim to come forward and is still ashamed of what happened in her tiny, cluttered apartment, but she says the officer must pay.
He's just a sick person that takes advantage of women that can't help themselves.
State police reports obtained by Target 8 through the Freedom of Information Act are prompting new questions. How did an investigation into first-degree sexual assault involving two allegedly vulnerable victims end with much lighter charges? And why won't the convicted officer be included on the state sex offender registry? His attorney says Carey is not a predator and doesn't belong on the list. The women, he says, consented.
I think it does a disservice to characterize this as a renegade police officer who's using his badge and authority to obtain sexual favors from non-consenting adult women.
Here's how it happened. It started in early 2008 with this 43-year-old woman's call to police to report a suspicious person. Officer Carey, the city's canine handler, took the call. The 47-year-old officer was especially nice. He hugged her in her apartment just 2 blocks from the police headquarters, told her a shower would make her feel better.
I've seen this cop before. I've had other incidents, and he was, I could tell he had like a crush or, that he liked me.
She had been diagnosed with mental health problems, major depression, a dependent personality, and other health issues. An hour or so after that first visit, he returned.
He was holding me, rubbing my back.
So was it more of a comforting thing at first, or?
Yeah.
The visits became regular. Thomas Carey sometimes tapping on her bedroom window late at night, or once appearing in uniform in her bedroom at 2 or 3 in the morning, standing in the dark. She couldn't understand how his bosses didn't know.
I mean, it's evident. I mean, he come knocking on my bedroom window at 1 o'clock in the morning. I mean, how can you hide, a police officer, in his uniform, dressed, banging on someone's bedroom window?
She felt obligated, she says, to give him what he wanted. Oral sex up to 12 times during the course of 14 months, and almost always while he was in uniform and with a gun on his belt.
He has a gun. I mean, I asked him one time what happened if his gun was to go off. I said, then you got some explaining to do.
The victim finally revealed her secret in March 2009 to her psychiatrist and mental health caseworker. The allegations reached police. Carey denied it, but there was one thing he could not explain away. When we come back, that detail, something his victim described, that convinced police she wasn't making this up.
Back now to our Target 8 investigation.
24-Hour News 8's Ken Kolker shows us now the revelation, a detail the victim described that convinced police that one of their own had betrayed his badge.
It was here at the Grand Haven Municipal Marina, in a meeting with a state police sergeant, that Carey was first told he was under investigation, and where he denied any wrongdoing. The frequent visits with the woman, he said, were good public relations. The victim's neighbors said they often saw the officer at her apartment, but they thought he was checking on her welfare. Detectives searched Carey's Grand Haven Township home, his police locker, but they found no apparent evidence of a sex crime, such as the men's blue or green bikini underwear described by the victim. But then, another description. This one easily verifiable with a search warrant for the officer's own body. And there it was, about where the victim said it would be, on Carey's upper arm. A blue oval tattoo, visible only when he's shirtless, honoring a fallen police officer, Scott Flahive. But then the biggest breakthrough, a second victim, 67 years old, also vulnerable, also diagnosed with mental health issues, a chemical imbalance, and depression. This one started in 2005, after she called police to report fraud. It was about this time that Carey was honored, named Grand Haven's Police Officer of the Year. The woman described 50 to 60 separate sex acts, at first without consent, and how it developed into a relationship lasting several years. State police investigated both cases as first-degree criminal sexual assault involving vulnerable victims, and an officer using his position to gain sexual favors. But Carey's attorney told Target 8 he negotiated a deal with Kent County Prosecutor William Forsyth before charges were ever filed.
My assessment was that there was just as good a chance of an acquittal as there was a conviction.
Forsyth, who had been asked to handle the case, wanted a sex crime conviction, and for Carey to never work as a cop again. Carey, for his part, wanted to stay off the sex offender list. They both got what they wanted. Forsyth filed charges of misconduct in office and gross indecency, the same kind of charge that two willing people could get for having sex in a public place. Maximum prison time, 5 years. And not only that, gross indecency is not among the crimes that land you on the state sex offender registry. Carey will not appear on the list.
I believe that he should be on the sex offender.
Once in court, Carey got quick service, charged and arraigned in Grand Haven District Court, then pleading no contest in Ottawa County Circuit Court, all on the same day. Prosecutor Forsyth wouldn't comment on the case, but Grand Haven Public Safety Chief Dennis Edwards and State Police told Target 8 they were both satisfied with the charges. They say it would have been difficult to prove that the women were too vulnerable to consent.
They made knowing choices, willful choices. There was benefit in the relationships to them.
One victim tells Target 8 she'll be there for his sentencing, but she says she won't make a statement in court. She no longer trusts police or the system.
If he serves any jail or prison time, I don't think he's going to get the maximum, but what he should, being a cop. I think there'll be, it'll be a lighter sentence.
A third woman has come forward with allegations against Carey, but authorities say they have found no evidence to support them.
Thomas Carey is scheduled to be sentenced on Monday.